opportune time to show this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie High like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie High like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie High like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie High like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory.
Okay, welcome everyone to Unplugged Unfiltered. I am Brian Clements, of course, alongside Bob Clements, and we have a really exciting guest for us today. We have Anthony Massucci. Anthony has a pretty incredible accolades behind him. He's been a journalist, runs a marketing company, and just put out a book, but I'm not going to take too much away from what he has to say for us, but we are so excited, and everyone who is on this, you guys are going to learn some pretty incredible things. And one of the big things that we're going to talk about tonight is, where do you even start? Like, how do you make that start? But before we get into that, let's get Anthony on here. Well, Anthony is actually on here, but we're going to have Anthony kind of introduce himself. Anthony, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about you. What are some things that you've done in the past? What are you working on now? And definitely, let's plug that book. If you guys don't have it, it's definitely.
Here we go.
And Anthony's got 45 minutes to fill. So Anthony, take your time.
That won't be a problem, I promise.
Okay,
well, Bob, Brian, thank you guys for having me on. One of my friends is a teenager. I was on a baseball team. His mom said I'm the only person she ever met who could talk to the dead and get them to talk back. So
great.
I think 45 minutes won't be a problem. So appreciate you guys having me on. Grade School is my first book, just came out this month here, April 2025. It's about teachers who changed my life, specifically 5 of my grade school teachers. Life was a little rough at home, and these teachers, I really look forward to going into school, getting great grades, creating bonds with those teachers, and just getting a lot of TLC and learning and all the fun things you get to do at school. And I really wanted to write a good book. So because I'm not a known person, I wrote it like a novel. So it's a true story written as a novel, but it is a memoir. And it's about my story as a grade school kid and why it would mean something, hopefully, to the readers. Since you asked, my backdrop, I was a journalist for Bloomberg News for about 13 years. Then I went to Time Warner AOL. They had a website called Daily Finance. So I had left Bloomberg. So at Bloomberg, I covered tech, the early days of tech and the boom and the bust and the bubble bursting, which was fun. And then when the economy melted down, I covered that for Bloomberg News, did Bloomberg TV and radio during that time, and then left Bloomberg and joined over at, it was AOL Daily Finance. And then that merged with Time Warner. About 10 years ago, I left journalism, went into public relations, and I worked for a company down in Alexandria, Virginia, Sunstar. And then eventually I started my own firm, and it's now called Hi Anthony Media. But unrelated to all that, the book is really something as having been a writer since grade school. Actually, I was editor of my grade school newspaper.
Nice. Good. That's good.
Yeah, right. I even drew the mascot for the school for the.
There you go.
So I really
I'm
wanted to write a
hoping you
book.
charged extra for the art. Did you?
What's that, Bob? Yeah, no extra.
I was hoping that you charged extra for the art because those are two different
You know, I
skills.
also did a comic strip in high school and college. So I have definitely the creative bone. It was
That's cool.
sort of a political commentary, fun strip, a little bit Doonesbury-esque. I drew it and I wrote it and I syndicated it to other college newspapers, which was fun.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
But I'm really excited to come on and talk about the book. It's something I've been laboring over for the past couple of years. Really glad to have it see the light of day. The book sales are doing well. So I just want to thank all the people out there who have bought it and buy some more.
Yeah. So,
There you go.
so for everyone who doesn't have the book, if you don't have the book, first off, you've got to go get the book. I started reading it, and I will be honest, I am not a big book reader. And I started reading it, and I was like, okay. Yeah. It started to draw me in because, well, I mean, we've all had experiences, right, in grade school. We've all had those teachers that have been incredible, that have encouraged us to show up. And then we've had those teachers that really encourage us not to show up. And,
Yes.
And so it really kind of drew me in and goes, okay, going back and thinking about, you know, for me, especially with everything that I have going on, it's where did I even start, and who were people outside of, you know, you and mom and the family who encouraged me to be who I am. And I will say, especially in my grade school, I don't think they encouraged any type of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I got in a lot of trouble at school, specifically for renting gym clothes to kids so that they did not get detentions.
Yeah. Then the principal found out, and he was not entrepreneurial in the same way you were.
No, he wasn't excited the fact that I was taking kids as lunch money so that they didn't get detentions.
You know.
I mean, supply and demand.
Most of them did not need to eat that day.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big a deal.
It wasn't. So
I would say, Bob, so like, were there people, aunts, uncles, other influential people besides, Brian's parents and yours dad there? So were there other people that you recognize sort of being kindred spirits, influences, folks who, were trying to make a difference? What's your memory of that?
Yeah, there was. I mean, I grew up 50 years ago. I graduated from high school. So grade school's been quite a while ago. And I grew up in a small farming community. I grew up on a dairy farm. So there was 23 kids in my high school graduation class, and I was near the bottom. Just because I struggled being motivated. But, so I grew up in very rural farming community, and my parents were farm people, wonderful people. But, I decided that at some point I didn't want to be on the farm. The circus wasn't in town, went to college, found out that college wasn't, I went through it, but it wasn't right. But I ended up getting into sales, and that was 50 plus years ago. And that was really where I got my entrepreneurial spirit at. I discovered as a straight commission salesperson that there was no limit if you had the guts and the courage. And part of your book is on the perseverance. You got some really great stories in there. But that's really where I guess. And then so I had opportunities to be around some guys like Tom Hopkins and Tony Robbins as I was kind of building my business 40 years ago. But I picked a lot up, and I did have some businessmen that were mentors to me. I was younger, so I didn't do well taking advice because when you're younger, you just assume
a lot of
got
young
it
people
figured
are.
out. Yeah, but again, that was a part of it, and I think just like in your book, Anthony, nobody gets there on their own, right? There is no quote unquote self-made person. There's people that walk along beside you through the journey. As I got older in life, you learn to shut up, listen, and take advice from people.
Yes.
And so I think that's a lot about me, and that's what we try to do. Is we are a consulting company, and we work with thousands of people out there over the 40 years. But it's just, I tell people, just shut up, take my advice, and do what I tell you to do. Trust me. Okay, after 40 years, I know what I'm talking about, and some do, and I tell people the more pain they're in, the easier it is for me to get them to take the advice.
That's really true.
When the state's knocking on their door to collect taxes and the bank's calling them, they're open to advice.
You mentioned Tony Robbins. It's straight out of Tony Robbins, the pain pleasure.
Absolutely.
People are more motivated to avoid pain than to
Absolutely.
get pleasure. Yeah, I'm a big a fan of Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar going back to sales.
Yeah, so I had an opportunity to meet him. I never got to work with him. Ken Blanchard, who did the 1 Minute Manager,
Yeah.
got to work with him. But I worked not directly with Tony, but through one of his organizations. I got to work with him quite a bit. My wife and I have done the fire walks, all the things you have to do if you're a part of the NLP crowd.
Yes.
But anyway, but there was a lot of good stuff there. And I go back and even with Tony had a lot of people. Jim Rohn, I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Rohn or not. He's passed now, but he was one of Tony mentored to him too, things like that. So yeah, so there's everybody out there, regardless where they're at. Everybody's had people that's walked alongside it. It just is a part of it. So it's a big important piece.
Yeah, and as we're kind of talking about that, I know that's kind of where we're going to go with this podcast. And Anthony, I know that you have. I mean, you've made some incredible connections, right? Over the years of doing journalism and then having, different companies and being part of so many different companies, you've made a lot of really amazing connections. But one of the things, and we had someone last week ask us, is like, what encourages someone to start? What pushes them to take that step? So you've done the journalism, you did comic strips for college. So we know you started kind of at a young age, but what was it that took you from a career in journalism to owning your own business? I mean, and I know that you worked for you worked for another company for a while, and then you stepped on your own. But where was that point where you go, know what, I'm going to do my own thing. I want to be my own boss. What was that kind of starting point there? And then we'll talk about how you kind of got into the book.
I mean, really, honestly, going back to the grade school, I knew my second child was born in 2010. So my ex-wife and I were looking at like how to navigate two careers, raising two kids. She was our second. And so it made more sense for me to pivot from journalism to public relations. And I really wanted to make sure that I was as present as possible. My ex is also very present for the kids, just as much as I could be there. So I wanted to take a job that was a little less demanding than journalism. And for me, public relations opened that door. It allowed me to basically be present for them during the, if there's a play or a game or whatever event I could go to. And that really motivated me to make that shift as much as I knew I would miss journalism. And it was certainly a big shift. I mean, public relations is similar. And so, but honestly, like to be present for my kids for their grade school years, going to whatever their events were. And that was what pivoted me to then eventually, I always thought, okay, I'm going to get my own business going. Started off working for another company, learned the ropes from Grace, Catherine Morrison, she was a great mentor. And that basically opened the door for me to get clients. And it's been about 7 years. So I recently changed the name to Hi Anthony Media, and just been running with it ever since.
Yeah. So okay. And I have to ask this because I've been wondering where did you get the Hi Anthony from? How was that created?
It's a great question. So back in the days of AOL email or Yahoo email, my Hi Anthony at AOL, Hi Anthony at Yahoo was my email. And I just thought it was a clever email address at the time, like Hi Anthony, like someone's emailing me. I mean, the early days of email, it was very much like writing a letter, but electronically. Like we don't really think of it in that way, and maybe we do. But so Hi Anthony it just sort of rolled off the tongue. It was easy for people to remember. You just like now, you want to tell people a website or an email address. It was something easy for people to remember. And then about 5 years ago, I had somebody do my branding for me. And his advice was, after getting to know me and researching it, he thought, just run with the Hi Anthony. You're outgoing, you're friendly. It's easy for people to remember. It's a great brand name. So, and I have had it as my email since way back. So it's almost like using an old phone number and just keeping it rolling. So for me, it was just a no-brainer to stick with the Hi Anthony moniker. And like on Twitter, I'm Hi Anthony, and Facebook and Instagram, et cetera. So it just works, in so many levels. And even HiAnthony.com, you can go there. I mean, it's easy for people to remember. And I always say Hi Anthony, not Hi Anthony. So it's a dad joke. And also it's just one more reason. it's another reason for people to remember that it's, you know, high.
Absolutely.
So, and you know, I think it fits my personality, so I'm a big fan of the name. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's one of those things. I mean, I've seen you in multiple different things, whether it's with Mike and Cass or, you know, with their book launch, or even on VFriends things. You know, I've seen them. I've seen your Hi Anthony on the VFriends aside. And so it was just one of those, out of curiosity, what made you, you know, kind of do that. So that's, it works incredibly well. And I love it because it's very easy to remember. I will say, right when we first kind of connected, I was trying to remember. I was like, okay, what was his name? What was his? I was like, it's Hi Anthony. And I was able to find you pretty easily on social media under that. So, but so going from, you know, you now have your own company, right? And you're doing kind of public relations, that side of things. What was it where you go, okay, this is growing great. Let me write a book. I mean,
well,
you get bored. You needed.
It's a great question. So I had always intended to write a book, right? And so
Okay.
I had even looked this idea for this book, 5 People Who Change Your Life, just hearkening back to my grade school teachers, a love letter to them, etc. I had written myself an email in 2012. And I just did a quick search on my email. I was like, wow, look at that, 2012. So, so it was something in the back of my mind. And then I started working on it a couple of years ago. And then I had a meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk in his office. I think it was August of 2023. I had seen him in May at VCon, his annual convention gathering of folks. And he had invited me for a 10-minute meeting to his office. I brought my son. So we were just chit-chatting mostly about family stuff, our kids, sports, that kind of thing. And I had offered to help Gary edit his book, Day Trading Attention, because in my role, I have edited some books. So I thought, well, that would be a book I would love to edit, right? So I offered in.
Yeah.
And then we were chatting more, and he asked if he could help me with something. So I had this in my back of my mind. I hadn't intended to ask, but I thought, well, you know, what do you think of this idea? And he loved the idea. He grabbed right onto it. He's kind of gave me a kick in the butt, said, write the damn book. What are you waiting for? He loved, you know, he sort of gave me sort of affirmation that it was a grand idea and that it should be done, and that he could see my passion, he could see my energy for it. So he was almost like, what's taking you? Like, why isn't it done already? You know?
Yeah.
So that was about a year and a half ago. So I got my ass in gear and finished the book, and worked with the team in LA, Book Accelerator, Ashley Mansauer. She helped a lot with, as far as just me understanding, although I was a journalist for many years, it's a lot of like writing a lead paragraph, some supporting paragraphs, cosmic, why does this matter? And then quotes. So writing a book is so different than that, but obviously writing is writing, right? So what I wanted to do was learn the structure of a book. Obviously it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but there's a real structure. If you want to write a good book, this is like the style of a novel, for example, where you want to create some drama, some stakes in the beginning, and then you want to have like a crescendo toward the middle, and maybe feels like things are hopeful, but then there's some more drama, and then you wrap it up. It doesn't have to be a happy ending, right? It could be a sad. I mean, not every movie, TV show ends in it with a smile, but I wanted to learn the structure of the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, how to bring the reader through it, create some emotion, create some drama. And it was so much fun to do. Although, you know, if you read the book, it's not, some of the stuff isn't fun. I mean, I think hopefully people come away with a hopeful message, but you wanted to, you know, I just used what was real, what really happened to me. It's a true story. And then did it as an arc, as they say, and wrote the book. I mean, if you think about any rom-com or movies, you know, there's always like, for example, pick on a rom-com, they're pretty basic, and the boy meets girl, and then something happens where one of them misunderstands the other person, or they go to the airport and miss each other on a flight, and then they seemingly break up and they're never going to see each other again. And then now they reconnect and potentially live happily ever after, right? So there's a whole, like, well, how do you get the audience to stay tuned? Why would you keep reading the book if it was just sort of a flat line, right? So you know, you think about all the watching a show, you tune in after commercial, you tune in next week, you tune into the next season. Well, why do people do that. So there was an art to that I learned, and it was really fun. Not having written a book previously, I enjoyed learning the path of that story arc.
Yeah, well, and that's awesome. And then honestly, as you're describing that and the outline of a book, like how a book is supposed to work,
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my God, this is my entrepreneurial life. It's like we have a peak and then we crash,
Yes.
and then we have a peak, but you kind of just keep pushing through it. And having someone like Gary, I think that you probably said it a little bit cleaner than what Gary. Just from knowing him, he might have been a little bit more
Forceful.
Yes.
yeah. So, but with that, having
I'm 70 years old. Gary scares me.
yeah.
He's not so scary in person, I promise.
Yeah.
I understand. I was like, okay, Gary, whatever you say, that's fine.
He's
Yes,
got
sir.
chutzpah and bravado, that would make most people blush. So yeah, he's got high energy. So
Oh yeah, and that's what you need. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you've got to, especially with everything he's doing, you've got to have that. But just those ups and downs it's really interesting. And one of the things that I know, especially as an entrepreneur, as an author entrepreneur, is, and we had a little bit of a conversation on this, is how do you keep, and you said how do you get them to watch the next episode? But
right.
After you've done a book launch, I think one big struggle of a lot of authors is how do you keep that momentum going? How do you keep that hype, behind a book? And doing podcasts are great, and putting out stuff on social media. But this is something. I mean, you've written a couple books. Mm-hmm. Not that I've read any of them, but you've written some great books apparently. But it's one of those. From your perspective, it's what do you do about, how do you keep that momentum? How do you go from the highs of the book to the lows? And then, we're hoping for the happy ending, right? This is a Disney movie. Right. Everyone comes home happy. We sing and dance and flowers and birds singing.
And everybody knows what happened to Bambi, and it wasn't a happy ending. So not everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Disney actually does a good job of keeping it real. Not all their stories are smiley faces at the end.
Right.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I will tell you that my significant other, we watched Moana 2 for the first time the other day, and there were tears shed during the movie. So yes. They do a very good job, but it creates that emotion, right? And I think that's one thing that your book as well is it's creating an emotion. We can all connect to it somehow. Yeah. And that's with a book is, I think that's one of the things that how do you stay relevant, right? As people are reading through it, they go, oh my gosh, this impacted me. This brought up an emotion, and I'm going to share that emotion to someone else. But Bob, I mean, from your perspective, I mean, what would you think, what would be one thing that you go, how do I keep this conversation going? How do I keep the interest? How do I keep building on a book?
Well, I'm in a little better position maybe than what Anthony is, because I write books for the audience that I already have.
That's great.
So I have this 8,000 people that work with us, know us. And so my books are directed specifically to them. So manufacturers buy them and give them to all their dealers and things like that. So I cheat. I just start with an audience and write a book I think somebody will buy in quantities of 300 and 400 at a big conference. But it's the same thing. My books are all how-to books, how to be profitable, how to hire people, fire people, but they're all story-based. That's why I really enjoyed your book, because the lessons are in there, but it's wrapped into this story that's fun to read. I have to say, you had a pretty tough life, young man, as you're going through this. So it was really interesting to do it, but that's mine. I think so. Mine is automatically relevant. I think my wife writes also. She's working on her second book now. It's a hell of a hard task. Okay, it's because she writes mystery novels based mostly on strong women against evil strong women. Okay? That's kind of the theme. But she's got her audience. She kind of knows who her audience is. But to get it published, to go through it is a nightmare. I don't. To me, writing a book was easy because I already had a built-in audience. Right. I knew what they wanted to hear. They've listened to me for 40 years. I just needed to tell a fun story that took dealers from, oh my God, we're going to die, to, oh, Bob saved them. Right. So it's, I always got to I tell people, not all heroes wear capes, Anthony. So Anyway,
Well,
so
I-
mine was a little bit easier because I had the audience already built in there. My wife, like you, are building an audience for it. And
Right.
it's the exact same thing. So you get it out and you get it put out there, and then you get this kind of hit. Okay. And then it goes away. And the biggest challenge is then what's the next hit? How do you keep this book? Okay. Because it takes a lot of time to write one, number one. And the first question most people are going to ask you is, so what's your next book? Okay.
Yes.
When you're
It's
going
like
to do your
when
next
you have a kid, you get married, you get engaged. When are you going to get married? You have a kid. When are you having the next kid?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
So
sort of
that's
like, yes.
yeah, that's the hard. I think that would be the hard part that you have to deal with is, so how do you take this book that's a great book,
Right.
and how do you keep it relevant? How do you keep doing that? And it's not an easy task. I mean, it's just
Well,
not.
thanks. I'm glad you read it. And I will say, like, that is, you have to get the audience to care, to buy it in the first
Right.
place, hopefully to read it, and then keep them tuned in. So things like I'm working on a book signing. I might do a thing called a bourbon and book night at a club here.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Let
You
me
let
know.
us know when
Let
that
us
is.
know.
I'll let you know. Yes.
Because
I'm in for that.
we really like the bourbon side of it.
It's a great reason to get people who might not otherwise come to a book signing to show up. Right?
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
I'll give a nod to Gary and his day trading attention. So just, how can I keep the attention relevant? How can I keep people caring? How can I keep the attention rolling? So book signings, I'm putting out podcasts. I'll get some interviews. Maybe I'll have you guys on. And then something extra for folks who have read the book, I'm going to do where maybe have a Q&A for people who want to ask about how did you write the book? How could they maybe put their story on paper? And I have to give a nod to my team in LA that's called Book Accelerator. They took care of a lot of that, as you were saying about your wife, Bob. They took care of a lot of that back end stuff, getting in the ISTN number, all the different things. There's a lot of moving parts.
There is.
Besides the writing and the editing, that's part of getting this to see the light of day. And they're a great team to work with. But I honestly think really it's about the attention and making moves or designing a roadmap that creates reasons for people to stay tuned and keep tuning in, not just for another book, but for this book along the way, right?
Yeah.
Even if I wrote another book, this book's still going to be relevant. Still, people are still going to want to buy it. Here, I have an audiobook. I'm going to record that in May. It'll come out in June. I'm getting podcasts done. I'm getting, as with you guys, a guest on a podcast. Book signing, maybe another book signing, a digital presentation. So there's so many different ways you can go. And then you just have to keep it compelling and interesting so that your audience, maybe there's a core group of people who care, stay tuned in, and then also attract new folks like with bourbon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it really almost is like an endless well of ideas. It's just, can you execute them? Where do you have the energy for it? And then can you keep it rolling forward? But I think I have deep passion for this project. I'm really so happy to share it with the world. So I have lots of energy. So that there will be no shortage of energy for me.
Right.
It's really about creating the opportunities and then seeing them through.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things, for me, as I'm kind of thinking about this book, so of course I have kids in school, right?
Right.
And the teachers are, I will say at this point, we've got 2 weeks left of school. The teachers are just about as done as the kids are. But we always put
Dear
together,
Lord, let this child die.
yeah. But one of the things that we always do is we always put together kind of a thank you to the teachers at the end of it. And I'm thinking about, I think it would be great to put a book like this
That'd be awesome.
in where the teachers can go, and as they're recharging over the summer, this is not just a book, but this is hey, your teachers, you're doing a great job. Because of what you've done, you've helped people become, journalists. You've helped people become authors. You have created the next generation of entrepreneurs, right? They've also created the next generation of other things that, and it's like, maybe we could have tried a little bit harder.
There's a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
I would say like it's a great idea to give this as a gift for teachers, because it really is a love letter, a thank you note for teachers in the form of a book. And what better way to thank them? And if they do read it, I mean, I do think the story is deep and profound, that it really shows how teachers can make a difference, even if they don't know how much of a difference they're making, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much my teachers knew about my home life, but they certainly knew that I needed some TLC, and they were very present, and they gave me some great reasons to come into school and do great. So I just feel like it really is a thank you for so many teachers. And I say at the end of the book, the world needs more teachers.
Yeah.
There's certain elements of teaching which are so critical, obviously, to educate our children. But a lot of what goes overlooked is, are they a friend? Are they a confidant? Are they someone that our children can trust? Are they a person that they respect? Right. So there's so much more. Just we tend to think of that with coaches or clergy, like folks like that. But teachers in very many ways fill that role, and almost fill that role in a bigger way, because they're spending more time with our kids than even a coach or a clergy, or, even aunts and uncles, or sometimes even more than mom and dad. Right. So there's a lot of responsibility there for teachers, and some of them, I think, take it very seriously and really do give a lot to our kids. So I think for so many reasons, it makes a great idea, not just because it would sell more books.
Oh, it is. But again, like you say, I think the same thing. I don't think they all understand the impact that they have.
Correct.
On the kids. And again, I think this book really highlights the impact that it had, especially with you and all the battles and stuff that you were having to deal with on the personal side with your family. It was bored. Just quick question. So you started this idea back in, I think you said 2012.
Yes, when I wrote an email to myself about doing this project. Yes.
And so what was then the catalyst? Obviously Gary was a part of that, but you had been working on this in your brain. What was the piece that, because that's the challenge with every entrepreneur. Everybody has a dream,
yes,
and then they have this dream.
But
it's putting it into life, breathing life into it. What was that moment where you said, prior to Gary, Gary just scared you into doing it. Let's just face it. So
well, he inspired me.
He inspired you. It was a terror thing.
I'm not scared of Gary.
What was that? That
I mean, honestly, right around that time, my son had started going to school. And so I could see now, as a dad, obviously he's going off to school. He's going to spend more time at school. So I knew that teachers were about to start playing a bigger role. So I had that in mind. And so I actually could see what really motivated me to get it done. And I was paying attention to how my own kids' grade school teachers were impacting their lives. Like, my son had a first grade teacher who was also wound up being his fifth grade teacher. So he could really see the growth in my son Logan in those 5 years. He came in as a more shy kid, and then more bold and confident in fifth grade. So just the changes that, and I got to know that teacher pretty well on field trips. We'd hang out a little bit. So it was just for me, transformational to have the conversation with that teacher in Logan's fifth grade year, just talking to, here is another adult who's seen my kid grow over this time, and just to hear his perspective of the changes. He would see things that I hadn't seen, or just put it in words that were better than I could observe. Right. And so for me, that really illustrated, okay, here's a great example. And then he had a first grade teacher, another teacher in kindergarten that was going through her own tough time at home. And I could see how the kids actually gave her back just by coming to school, getting energy from them. And then my daughter, especially in middle school, had some really impactful teachers who were, honestly, I don't know if they were amazing or great teachers, to be honest, but I got to know them personally through going to school dances and fundraisers, PTA meetings, and I knew they were great people, right? Yeah. And I knew that the impact that some of these teachers had on both my son and my daughter. So that was really the impetus, the drive for me. Not only could I say, all right, well, for sure, these teachers made an impact on my life, but now I'm seeing, as a dad, the impact on my own kids, right?
Yeah.
So it just gave me even more value and more drive to get this done, because it's one thing to experience it yourself. It's another thing to see others, especially people like my kids who you love, seeing the impact on them. And they had a very supporting mom and a very supportive dad and a lot of family, and very so yet still these teachers were such an important part, played such an important role in their lives. So there's no doubt in my mind that, teachers are undervalued and overlooked in many ways. So that was, really thought, oh, I got to get this done because I want to, I covered tech and I covered the economy and I had a really great time at Bloomberg and PR as well. But to me, I felt like this would make more of an impact if I'm going to put my fingers to a keyboard and really write a story. For me, this is bigger than those things, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, and you really are taking a passion, right? So, I mean, you had I can definitely tell you you've had a passion for journalism. You've had a passion for public relations, right? And communicating that. But you took something that, and honestly, sharing a memoir, right, and your story, that's a little terrifying. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily share my whole story.
It's another reason I stalled and procrastinated 100%. Yes.
And that's a fear that, whether you're an author, whether, whoever you are in the world of business, starting a business or doing that, it's, how are people going to see me? How are people going to receive this? Whether it's from an author standpoint or not, you are putting a lot of your personal life out there. Right. And, because of that, you're not doing it just to be, to be on Amazon's top selling list, right? You are truly doing something that's going to create a legacy. And I think that's where the power comes in from it, right? It's hey, teachers, your name might not be the name of my teacher. You're not the teacher that I had, but you're going to resonate with this. This is going to mean something to you. And we do notice, right? Because I think there's a lot of teachers out there that go, oh, well, does any parent actually notice what we're doing? Do they care? And there's a lot of parents out there that don't care. But you're showing them, hey, we do care. We do see, and it does make an impact. I will say I've had teachers that have made a huge impact in my life. My kids have had teachers that have made incredible impact too. Okay. I have a son who's nonverbal autistic, and this was his first year in school. And because of his teachers, he's become so much more vocal. He's really, really coming out of his shell. And they don't get enough praise for that. But they have
a deep and lasting impact. And this
book
absolutely underlines that. And to your point about the story, like for me, what's more powerful than a personal story? I mean, for me, it's not for everyone. I get not everyone, memoir would be their thing. Maybe it's easier to write about, building a car engine or whatever, right? So, but really it's about what you're passionate about. And I knew for me to spend late nights and get up and edit this thing, and just put in all the hours it would take, it did spread it over, a couple of years. But in order to do that, to have the real energy for this project, which, as you said, is a passion project for sure. Like for me, nothing better than a deep and personal story to motivate, because my name is on the book and it is my story. So I'm going to be tuned in to every word to make sure it really resonates and rings true. And at least for me, that was all the motivation I needed to either to start it, to get it done. And once I was on the path to getting it done, not that it came easy, but the words did come pretty easily. It's almost like, and I will say anyone who's having trouble writing or just getting off the starting block of a passionate idea, entrepreneur, sales, any of it, like there's nothing like putting yourself in the moment of having to do it. If you have to dive off a diving board, you could think about that dive 17 times every night before bed, but you don't really know what you're going to do until you get to the edge of that board. Yeah. And you actually might find an energy and a resource in you that is just not there in your brain thinking about it. Right. Yeah, so I would say, like, for me, many reasons I stalled on writing this, and a lot of them were that thought by paralysis, et cetera. We're just worried about how would I tackle certain issues. But then when I got there into the moment of writing, the solution to those problems actually came quite easy, which I didn't realize was going to happen. So you can't cannonball into a pool if you're afraid of water until you're standing on the edge of the pool. And then you can do it, or you don't do it. Maybe somebody yells something, or there's somebody who's motivating you, or whatever it is that gets you to jump in. Well, now you're in the pool, and all the thinking, it's all the worry's gone, right? As long as you're swimming or coming up.
There could still be some other worries, but
right. I mean, lifeguard, but it's really about having faith in yourself and understanding that the resources are in you, and until you push, you're just never going to give them a chance to surface, right?
Yeah.
So if there's anything I could say that would encourage people to do something that they're stalling on doing, it may not even be writing a book. It could be a litany of items, right? It's
Yeah.
just put yourself in that moment of truth and see what happens,
Absolutely.
right? And because you might surprise yourself on what you have inside or what's going to come rolling out of you that you can't tap it until the moment, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes, again, and you had like finding your 5 people, but you got to find people that will push you in the pool.
Yes.
Right. Say, because you may not ever get off there, but you've got that person that says, look, I'm just going to shove you in here.
Yeah.
And
Gary kind of figuratively did literally, I mean, he gave me that push I needed. And once I shared this story idea with him, there was no turn in my head. There was no turning back. Like now I told other people, et cetera. But once I told Gary, I felt like I just had to show him and make good on the promise, right?
Yeah.
And finish it because he was so inspired with the idea, as he was inspired as I was. Me sharing it, him sharing his energy back. I was like, all right, well, if this resonates that well with him, and I know it's going to be great, then I have no more excuses. I see to your point, Bob. Yeah, getting somebody behind you, 1, 2, 3, and whoever it is, and it might not be the people you think. It might not be your best buddy. It could be somebody you take a bus ride with, or you get on an airplane for 3 hours, and you really get fired up talking to somebody. So you never know where those inspirations are going to come from.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely find your 5 people if you can.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I would just have to say, I mean, I'm glad that you jumped. I mean, and I'm not a big reader. I'll be the first person to admit that. I am not a big reader.
Because you are dyslexic.
Because I am dyslexic. I grew up, when I was younger, I was very, very dyslexic. And so reading was always a really big task to me. It was hard. It didn't make sense. As I've gotten older, I still have that PTSD. It's like, oh my goodness, this is going to take me forever. But when I do get into a book that I find interesting, I find that my brain kind of quiets, right? And I can actually focus on it. And I was able to do that, with your book. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to do that, is to go into what you wrote. It's right. Yeah. I kind of pulled away from reality a little bit and go, okay, I'm in your shoes now, because again, we've all lived that experience to some extent. It might not have been as high. It might've been higher. You never know. But I think every single teacher out there will resonate and know a child who was like you, who they go, wow, did I make that change? Did I make that impact? Right. And so I'm very excited and very, I think it's awesome that you wrote this book. I'm definitely going to be ordering some more to give to the kids, or to the kids for their teachers at school.
I think everybody, I know you're on TikTok here now. You got 4,000 or 5,000 followers on there, but I'm just going to challenge everybody. I think, again, every teacher, if you're a parent and you've got a kid in school, and if you've got 3 kids in school, buy 3 books. Yeah, absolutely. Give one, put a thank you note in the book, say, thank you so much for what you do for my kids. Here's a book I think you're going to enjoy.
Absolutely.
The other thing I would encourage you to do is to take people and encourage them to reach out to their public libraries and say, do you have this book? And if not, would you put it in the library for us? Because it's a great thing to do. And libraries are looking for things like this all the time.
Absolutely.
And if you just simply go in and ask, say, hey, do you have this book? And they go, no, we don't. Say, well, would you mind doing it?
Yeah.
And you would be amazed how much many copies would get out there that way. But I love the idea. I think I would challenge everybody that's a parent, regardless if your kids are in high school, middle school, or elementary school. This is put a thank you note in them for being a part of that child's life. Give them this book and say, I don't know if you know how important you are to kids. Yeah. This is a book I really would love for you to read, just as a thank you for what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody, so we're live on TikToks, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitch, we're live on Instagram. Everyone who's here, especially, I mean, we've have 1,200 people who've been on our TikTok live watching this, right? So every one of you, if you have a kid, definitely go out and check it out. With that being said, Anthony, where do I find this book?
So currently Amazon.com. Just go to Amazon.com, type in grade school or grade school Massucci. It'll come up. It's about to be available in other places like Barnes and Noble and other bookstores. It's just
Okay.
we're getting that. It's all getting listed,
Yeah.
and I'll know pretty soon that it's live, and I'll alert people on social media.
Perfect.
And one good thing for folks who may be daunted, the idea of reading a book might feel daunting. I did write it from the perspective of 10-year-old me. I thought it would be more impactful for the reader to read it through the eyes and the words of a child. And it was relatively easy for me to channel that inner child. And so, because it was me, but it wasn't hard at all. And I really, and also I wanted it for people to really feel the emotion. I felt like it was better to write it as much as possible in that voice rather than a retroactive later voice. And I think that may have helped with why it's connecting so well with folks. So I'm really pleased to hear that. So that's great.
Yeah.
And I actually have been working with the New York Public Library, so we'll get it in there also. And audiobooks coming in June. So there's a lot of different ways it's going to come out. Barnes and Noble and other booksellers too. But for now, Amazon.com, it's paperback, ebook, and hardcover. If you just search my name, it'll pop right up.
Yeah. Yeah. So everyone who is on the TikTok, I will have our recording of this podcast. So you guys can't actually see the full podcast right now. You guys are kind of the behind the scenes, but it is grade school, and it is Anthony, and it is Massucci. So MASS. Here,
there you go.
That is a great, and we will create a thumbnail of that right there so you guys can see it. Amazon.com. Go check it out. I encourage everyone to go to get one or however many children that you have.
We ought to make a challenge that we can move 15 to 20,000 of these books.
Let's do it. I'm in.
I mean, why not? I'd like to say, I don't know how many teachers are out there, and I know all these kids are out there, but this
is a great end of year gift. I'm with you 100%. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'd say, unless you're a loser. Okay. And you don't want to participate.
Yes.
But I feel like they do. This is one of those things that I think every teacher that got this as in a thank you note as a gift, number one, they're going to treat your child better than next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now you know they can be bought.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's value, and there's always value.
Yes.
So, but anyway, it's a great book.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good point. So from our side, from the Unplugged Unfiltered side, let's challenge everybody out here. Let's do what, 12,000 by the end of this school year.
That's great.
I mean, that gives us 3 weeks.
Every teacher should have one of these in their hands.
Every teacher. I mean, and I don't think with everyone on here, I mean, that would be assuming that everyone on our TikTok has 10 children.
Well, they should have.
But
we need to increase the population in the U.S. So this is a good goal for all.
But with everyone out there, share. I mean, as you share this video, share this book out. And I think it's going to be a pretty awesome thing. So Anthony, I appreciate your time so much. I look forward to it. Anyone who's watching this recording, I'm going to make sure I have a link for the book below on this. And if you guys want, I'm going to make sure that Anthony's social media is also linked to this. So it's Hi Anthony Book. Is that correct?
So on Instagram, it's Hi Anthony Book. On Twitter, it's Hi Anthony. And if you just search Hi Anthony in Google, you'll find a few different places.
Perfect. Yeah.
Just so it does for teachers, to your point, it says, we, your students, feel you throughout our lives. The world needs more teachers. It thanks teachers right at the end for supporting all of us. And I think, it's a great, and the more teachers who get this book, I'll be delighted, because I think it really will touch their hearts. And so many people have teachers they love. So it's a great way to honor them. So
absolutely. So again, guys, that's going to be our goal. We're going to try to get 12,000 of these. That's through 4,000. Math was not my strongest suit either.
Math is hard.
4,000 books each week for the next 3 weeks. Let's see if we can push it for Anthony. Let's see if we can push it for the teachers. But on that note, our time is up. So we are going to go ahead and unplug Anthony again. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It's been incredible getting to know you over the last couple of weeks. It truly has. And really appreciate you coming on here. We're going to, on our social media, we're going to put we're going to start keeping track of it. So Anthony, you and I will kind of be in touch. I know it'll be kind of hard for us to figure out who's coming from what.
Just
but
assuming they all came from us.
yeah,
Okay, I'll give you all the
Any
credit.
book you sell from this moment on all came through us.
I know. So if you guys bought a book, make sure you go onto our social media. Let us know that you guys bought a book, and
You'll love it. It's a great book. It is.
Yeah, and we're excited to be able to share this with you guys from the incredible mind of Anthony. So, Anthony, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Bob, Brian, thank
and-
you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So let's get this book pushed. And with that note, we are going to officially unplug from the podcast. So thank you guys. You all have a great night, and we will catch you next week. We have an incredible show coming up next week too. So make sure that you tune in for social media on our social medias to see what's going on next week. So with that, we'll catch you all later. Have a great night.
Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Never disappoint, so we have